Thank you once again for joining us today. My name is Sinman and I'm from the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office. Smart Nation Together is an online channel developed to introduce our community to basic tech skills and knowledge and introduce digital upskilling opportunities for the community. This afternoon, we present to you our My Savvy Kaki series, where we share with you the various digital government services and digital lifestyle apps available, and some tips on tech as well. So for today's session, we will learn from the awesome people at our government technology agency, GovTech, on some updates to the app, and also share why more of us should use the Singpass app. This will also be a good time to also ask us any questions that you might have on Singpass. So we are very happy to have with us Serene and Leonard to conduct the session today. So Serene and Leonard, over to you, please.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year! 身体健康，心想事成. I'm Serene from GovTech Communications and Marketing Group. So thank you so much for taking time to learn more about Singpass today. We know many of you may have questions along the way, but may we ask that you hold your thoughts or scribble it down on a piece of paper. We've allocated about 10 to 15 minutes Q&A session at the end to address all your questions, so we have sufficient time to get to them. Yeah. So without further ado, let me start. The Singpass that we know today has grown beyond just a login to government digital services. We have introduced many features in recent years to make your everyday transactions easier. So for example, now you can use it to access many private sector services like managing your insurance policies, your medical appointments. You may even realize that you can actually log into some of the bank apps and portals as well. Today, we'll be focusing on some of the key topics most relevant to you, which is actually this four here. Firstly, what are the available Singpass two-factor authentication methods now? How to use your Singpass app to log into digital services? How to use your digital IC when you're at a government counter, as well as how to use face verification. And finally, we'll conclude the session with some security best practices to help our to keep our Singpass account safe. This deck will then be sent to you after the session, so you can always recap and explore the easier features, which is this points 5 to 8 here at your own time. For greater security, we have introduced two-factor authentication 2FA in 2013. Where users can perform a two-step verification process when accessing services. As you know, Singpass today serves over 4.2 million users, and we know our users may have varying preferences and needs. So we have actually 4 different two-factor authentication methods that you can use now, and users can actually choose between all of them and find the one that suits them most. So let's find out which 2FA is most suitable for you. So if all of you, I'm sure all of us have different needs. So if you have a smartphone with you, you can actually download the Singpass app. And we encourage you to do so because of its many features. Besides being able to log into services without the use of passwords, you also have all your important information, for example, your passport details, CPF balance in your profile in the app. Upon authentication, of course, you can also receive notifications from the government in your inbox, and you can even digitally sign documents next time with your app on the go. So we will go through how you can log into services and use the digital IC in the next half of our program today, but you may also find additional resources at these links. So just to clarify, you can already use digital signing today, just that we'll be going through the 4 main features. So you familiarize yourself with the app first, and then in future, when you're comfortable, when you have a document you need to sign and you see a QR code, a Singpass QR code where you can scan to sign it with a Singpass app, you can do so. And if your camera, your smartphone has a front-facing camera, or if you have a computer with a web camera at home, you can also use the Singpass face verification feature as your two-factor authentication method. you do not have to register or set up anything to start using this 2FA method. So let's say you are logging into services, for example, CPF. After clicking on login, you'll be prompted to enter you'll actually see a QR code first. But if you do not want to proceed with Singpass app QR code scanning, then you can select to log in using your Singpass ID and password. After entering your Singpass ID and password, you can select face verification when prompted for your 2FA, and then you'll be guided to scan your face. So we'll be going through some of this step-by-step instructions later on in the face verification segment. The difference is these face scans will be compared against your photograph provided to the government to verify your identity for that transaction. So this can be your photograph provided during passport renewal, or if you're 30 this year or 60 this year, your NRIC re-registration. So it's always the latest. You may also find some of these kiosks at government locations, and we'll touch on that a bit more on that later. And if you have a mobile phone, but it's not a smartphone, meaning you cannot actually download apps on it, you can actually choose to register for SMS two-factor authentication. Using this feature, when logging into services, you will receive an SMS one-time password at your registered mobile number with Singpass. And then you key in the one-time password into the field proceed. So this is only available to locally registered numbers. If you are residing overseas, you might want to consider either the Singpass app or face verification instead. Finally, we note that there are users who do not have mobile devices, or they may need help from a trusted family member when transacting. Then the multi-user SMS2FA will come in handy, because it allows you to link your Singpass account to a trusted individual's mobile number for the purpose of receiving SMS one-time passwords. Both parties, to set up this 2FA option, both parties must visit a Singpass counter so that they can verify both parties and ensure that both parties consent to this arrangement. Each number can be linked up to 5 accounts. But if you are unable to be physically present at a counter, you can also call or email Singpass to request for the setup to be done over a video call. Both parties must be on the same video call for verification purposes. Now let's learn how we can access services with your Singpass app on our smartphones. I'm not sure if many of you are like me here. I always forget my passwords. So Singpass app really saved my life. So if you always forget your passwords, you might want to explore using Singpass app by downloading it from Apple App Store, Google Play Store, or Huawei App Gallery. So essentially what it does is that it lets you log into services using your fingerprint, face, or a 6-digit passcode. So you don't have to enter your long passwords anymore. That's so awesome, right? Yeah, so it's also safe because there are security measures in place to protect your digital identity. So for example, when you access your details or when you access a service, you always have to authenticate before you're able to proceed. And if the app has detected malicious apps or altered settings that may actually compromise the security of your device, it will lock itself and you will not be able to use the app until the threat subsides. Yeah, so there are security measures in place to protect your Singpass as well as your data. So how do you actually use this feature? There are actually 3 ways you can log in using your Singpass app, depending on your needs. So there's a desktop browser version, a mobile browser, as well as a direct access through your Singpass app. So we'll go through all 3 of them today. If you are accessing the service, let's say CPF on your computer browser, you will be presented with a Singpass QR code after clicking login. Yeah, so on the CPF browser, you will see a login button, you click on that. Then immediately you'll land on a Singpass login page where you will see a very prominent QR code featured on the right-hand side. You take out your phone, launch your Singpass app and tap on the scan button, and then you can scan the QR code on the computer screen. You will then be prompted to authenticate on the phone itself using your fingerprint, face, or passcode. And you'll realize that you have already logged in successfully on your computer. So the desktop browser screen will actually refresh automatically. So when you're done with your transactions, remember to always log out of your the digital service that you're accessing on your computer browser. This will help to keep your account as well as your data safe. You'll realize that you actually do not have to log out of the Singpass app, as it acts as an authenticator. The Singpass app, if I may give an analogy, it's like the Singpass app is like the key and CPF is the door, right? So you are trying to access that CPF user account to see your balance, right? Yeah, so you just have to lock the door after. You don't have to do anything with the key. Yeah. And if you are accessing the service on your phone's internet browser, so for example, you take out your phone, you launch Safari or you launch Chrome on your phone itself, that is your internet browser on the phone. Instead of scanning the QR code, because now you are accessing a service on your phone, so you cannot possibly take out your phone to scan your phone, right? Yeah, so we have the step to do this would be to tap on the QR code that you see. Yeah, so it's very similar to the previous step. When you're logging in, you tap on login, you will see Singpass page and a very prominent QR code in the center of the page on your mobile device. You tap on it and it will automatically launch your Singpass app on that same device. And then Singpass app will prompt you to authenticate using passcode, or if you have set up biometrics, your fingerprint or face, and then you'll be redirected back to your browser and you're logged in. Yeah, so it's that simple. And the third way would actually be through your Singpass app itself. We have included shortcuts that are popular shortcuts to government services. For example, CPF, IRAS, HDB, these three are the most used services ever, right? And then you can actually scroll down. So when you launch your app, you see this page, you scroll down. It's actually at the bottom here, popular shortcuts. You actually see three here, which is the three most used that I've listed just now: CPF, HDB, IRAS. But if you need to see the full list, you can always tap on view or shortcuts. Tap on the shortcut, authenticate, and then you're logged in. It's a similar flow, just that now you're accessing it through your Singpass app directly. So this provides more convenience, as you do not actually have to enter long URLs in the browser anymore. You don't have to type cpf.gov.sg in your mobile browser before you can access it. You can just click on the button, tap on the button, and authenticate, and you're in. Yeah. So there's less switching back and forth between the browser and app. Okay, so besides facilitating access to digital services, which we have covered just now in the 3 slides before this, Singpass is also your digital identity for in-person counter services with the government. So if you have downloaded your Singpass app, or if right now you are actually setting it up, when you first launch your Singpass app, you'll actually find this digital version of NRIC on the home page. And it only has your partial NRIC on it. So this is actually your digital IC. From 1st November last year, the digital IC is accepted by all government agencies for in-person services, counter services. So for example, you can present your digital IC to counter staff at government service centers. If you visit, let's say CPF, IRAS, or ICA building, HDB, you can now today use your digital IC to prove your identity. Or you can launch the barcode for scanning, just like how you would show the barcode on your physical IC for scanning, right? Sometimes when the counter staff asks for it. So this minimizes physical exchange of documents, which is also helpful in facilitating contactless transactions in this COVID situation. There are, however, some scenarios where your physical IC will still be required. So you can check the list of scenarios where you still have to bring your physical IC to present the stuff here at this link. So don't panic. You don't have to jot down this right now. We will be circulating the deck after this. And if you prefer not to have your digital IC up front on the home page for privacy reasons, let's say you're on the train, you're trying to transact on a Singpass app, and someone's really very obviously looking over your shoulder to see what you're trying to do, you can actually quickly manually hide it by tapping on this button, this up arrow here. There's also the option to hide it by default, but we'll go through that in a bit. What's another thing about the Singpass app is that it is made to be your digital identity. So we are trying to get more identification cards added to the app so that in future you launch it, you have like everything you need in there, right? And you also be able to swipe between these cards to use them. So stay tuned for that. We have also moved the profile category. If you are user since 2018 when we launched the app, you realize back then we have 4 different buttons here, but we have since moved the profile category onto the homepage for more convenience. Yeah. So now you have the customizable profile and information like your CPF balance, HTB details, passport number, the same information, just easier to access. But you will still have to authenticate to view your details. So it's very safe and very private. So don't worry about that. What's new in this document? What's new in this profile category is this document wallet category, which stores your government issued documents. For now, if you're traveling, you can go to Notarized portal to obtain your vaccination health cert, and it will be stored in here. For the vaccination health cert itself, a notification will also be sent to your app inbox. Other documents will be made available in this document wallet in future. Next, you still have your login shortcuts. If you're a frequent user already, you would be quite familiar with this login shortcuts panel. So what's new here is now we have this last use shortcuts. Last time it was just popular shortcuts, 9 of them. Now we have shortened this to 3, and then you can view more, but we've added this last use shortcuts portion. So it remembers your last visited services for easy access. Yeah, so let's say you're accessing a health hub and it's not in this tree, then you don't have to always tap on this and then click on health hub. Yeah, go through that hassle, right? So the app remembers that, oh, actually you already accessed health hub last week to check like maybe vaccination status or anything, then it will be featured here. Yeah. So don't worry if you don't see this section after you just set up your app. You will actually need to first access a service for this section to actually appear. Yeah, so when I first set it up, when this app was first updated to have this last use shortcut section, I too couldn't find it for the first time, and I panicked. And then I remember, oh yes, you have to access first, then you will see this section. Yeah. And because we know that digital IC is very personal, very close to heart, right? You use it for all your milestones and all. It's a very important document. So we have implemented security features to protect your digital IC. So firstly, it's designed to look like a physical IC. So it's very easily recognizable by counter staff. There's also the state crest for this identification document that's officially accepted by the Singapore government. And instead of just featuring your photograph, which you first got when you first got your IC, right? Your digital IC actually features the latest photograph you provided to the government. So for example, you intend to travel soon and your passport has expired. So you went to renew your passport and you provided the government with your latest photograph, and that will be featured here in this digital IC. So it's always the latest, most up to date, and it facilitates more accurate visual verification. We also added this animated line crest at the right corner of the photograph. And this aims to deter spoofing. So what happens is the lion crest is absent or static. So that this lion crest is actually moving. If you launch your app now and you look at it, it's actually animated. So if you try to screenshot or record, the lion crest will be absent or static. Yeah. So counter officers are also asked to check that this feature, this particular safety mark, to identify a legitimate digital IC. And lastly, only the last 4 characters of an NRIC number are shown on the home page. This is what you will need for most transactions, and this is to protect privacy. So to view more details, you will need to tap on the card. So you tap here, and then you'll be prompted to authenticate using either the passcode, your fingerprint or face to land on this page where you have all your full details on your IC. Authentication is not required when you launch the barcode though. This is actually an intentional design that balances both security and convenience, because a user has to first unlock the phone, launch the app, tap on the show barcode, and then present it for scanning. Yeah, so there are already multiple steps. So yeah, there's no authentication here. We have also implemented a 2-minute grace period after each authentication for users to navigate the app freely before they are prompted to authenticate again. So if you just set up your app, don't panic if you realize, let's say you set up your app 1 minute ago, and then you tap on this IC and hey, it didn't prompt me for my passcode. Why? What happened? Don't worry, it's because when you set up your app, you actually authenticated once, but you probably didn't register or remember that. But yes, the timer starts from then. So you may realize that, hey, actually, when I first launched my app, after I just set it up, I didn't need to authenticate or anything, but that's not true. You close your app, you come back again after 2 minutes, and yes, you will need to authenticate. So this is actually a security feature. It also means that if you have accessed the digital IC details and authenticated, right? And within the next 2 minutes, you access these profile categories, you will not need to authenticate again. But after the 2-minute timer has lapsed, you will have to authenticate again if you try to like switch to another category or access your digital IC. So basically any category that requires authentication. After 2 minutes, you will need to authenticate again. So the purpose of actually introducing this is to offer convenience during a single transaction. So let's say you're buying a house, you need to check your CPF balance. So you'll be switching between like different categories, maybe your finance category to check your CPF balance, etc. Maybe your personal information to get your, I don't know, your spouse's IC or your child's IC or something like that. Yeah, then you don't have to keep authenticating each time. We have covered how to manually hide the IC earlier by using this up button, right? But now let's see how you can hide it by default so that your app launches with your digital IC hidden always. So firstly, you can go to the app settings menu, toggle on the always hide my cards option. So here, now it's off, right? So you toggle it on. And then when you next return your homepage, your digital IC will be hidden. So this means that every time you launch a homepage, right, your digital IC will be hidden. And when you want to use it, you just tap on the down button next to my cards, authenticate to make sure it's you who wants to see the details, and then your card will be shown. And this section is also subject to the 2-minute grace period we discussed earlier. To disable the feature, there's an added security step. You go to settings, you toggle it off this time, and then now you have to authenticate just to ensure that it's not someone else who wants to turn off the feature to access your information. It is you're authorizing this change in the settings. And then when you next return to the home page, your digital IC will now be shown each time you launch the app. So finally, let's see how you can use the Singpass face verification feature. Singpass face verification lets you verify your identity by capturing a face scan and comparing it with the government's biometric database, which is actually the photograph you provided to the government. This is unlike your device biometrics like Apple phone's Face ID that uses localized biometrics data to compare. So to use this feature, after you have entered your Singpass ID and password, you read the instructions and guidelines. It will actually prompt you, show you what you're doing, that you're logging into a service, what will happen next, and then some of the guidelines so that the face scan doesn't fail. Like for example, you shouldn't be wearing shades, don't have your hair covering your eyes, no strong backlighting and whatnot. And then you'll proceed to scan your face. At this step, you actually see a series of flashing lights. This is the liveness detection technology that ensures you are physically present and it's not an image or a 3D mask. So again, there are many security features implemented in Singpass to safeguard your account and your details. The previous slide actually showed how you can use face verification to access services on your computer or your mobile phone internet browser. But face verification is also available at some government agency kiosks. So for example, IRAS and our Tampines Hub's public service centers. And you can use the feature to log into services at this kiosk. So what you do is you simply scan your IC or enter your NRIC number, and then you proceed with the face scan. Another use of the face verification would be for the setup of the Singpass app. So after you have downloaded the Singpass app from Apple App Store, Google Play Store, or Huawei App Gallery, depending on your device, model and make, you'll need to do a one-time setup to activate it. During this setup, you'll have to log in using your Singpass, and we have enabled you to do so using face verification as well. So after you have approved all these different permission required to use the app, and you have read about the app, what is it about, what can you use it for, briefly, in a nutshell, what is it, you tap next. You will then be prompted to enter your Singpass ID and password. And at the next screen, you'll be asked to perform two-factor authentication. Here, you actually see this face verification tab. You choose it, and then similarly follow the steps, read the guidelines, and then the face scan will start. So at this step, it captures your face scan and match it against the government's biometrics database. And if it matches, then you get logged in, you're granted access. So the next step would be to check your identity certificate details and tick the check boxes. Your identity certificate actually ties your identity to this app that's installed on your phone. So every time you log into your CPF, you scan the QR code, the system recognizes, oh, this is Serene who's scanning her QR code, and then authenticate using your face or by entering your passcode, and then you get logged in. So once your identity has been established and verified, you'll be asked to set up a 6-digit passcode for future logins to the app. To services using the app. So sorry, I repeat that again. You'll be asked to set up a 6-digit passcode for future login to services using the app. You can also enable fingerprint or face authentication depending on your preferences or your device's technology. If you do so in future, when you're trying to log into services, the app will prompt for your fingerprint or face first, And if that fails, or let's say you're wearing a mask, now we always mask up, right? So it's quite common that our Face ID doesn't work. Yeah, so if let's say the face scan fails twice, then you'll be prompted to fall back on your passcode to authenticate. Yeah. So while you have activated Face ID or fingerprint authentication, it's still important that you remember this 6-digit passcode. But we've made it so much easier for you. It's not a very long password, it's just 6 digits now. And ta-da, you have set up your Singpass app. It's very, very simple. So as mentioned earlier, I've skipped past a few other simpler features. So we have sufficient time for Q&A now, but the organizers will be circulating this deck, so you can take a look at that at your own time. And so now we'll go through some best practices on how you can protect your digital identity. I'm not sure if all of you know what's phishing here. It's actually when hackers trick you into divulging your personal details. And sometimes they do so by setting up a fake website that looks just like a government website. So you might see, let's say, if they spoof the Singpass website, it could look exactly like the Singpass website, but the URL is wrong. Yeah, so it's very important that you pay attention to the website URL, the domain, the URL domain. So it should always state singpass.gov.sg if you're accessing Singpass. It should always state cpf.gov.sg, hdb.gov.sg. So you should always check that when you're accessing any website to make sure it's legitimate and then not a spoof website whereby it looks the same, but when you enter your details into the fields, they steal your data. Yeah, so that's very, very important. So for Singpass, check that it's singpass.gov.sg and there's a log icon in the address bar. And when you log into a service using our Singpass app, you will also actually see this consent screen that says, are you logging into? And then they present a URL there. So it's important that you check that this URL domain that is stated in your Singpass app matches that of the website you're accessing. Yeah. So let's say, for example, you're accessing CPF on your browser. Your app will ask you, are you logging into cpf.gov.sg? So check carefully before you proceed. Also, to protect your account, you should never share your username, password, and 2FA details with anybody. Yeah, so never send it across in text messages or anything, or share with your friends or anything like that. And always set strong passwords or activate biometric options, and lock your phone so that only you can access your app. If you suspect that your account has been compromised, take these steps. Reset your password immediately on the website, lodge a police report, and then inform us at support@singpass.gov.sg. You can also, if let's say you're afraid that there's unauthorized transactions done using your Singpass account, you can also check your transaction history in the Singpass account to make sure there's no such unauthorized access. Yeah, so to do that, you visit the website, you log in, you click on check history or view history, and then you'll be able to select the time period, and it will list down all the different 2FA logins you have ever done. And if you need help, there are many resources on the Singpass FAQs, and we also have step-by-step instructions in the guides at these links. Yeah, so this is the Singpass FAQs, and then this is the Singpass guides, where there are step-by-step screens to guide you through. Or if you cannot find your answers here and you need to speak to an officer, you can also call us at this number 6335-3533, or you can email us at support@singpass.gov.sg, or even drop by any of our counters located island-wide. So many of these counters are actually in community centers.
Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Serene and Leonard, for today's session, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Simon, for having us, and everybody for joining us to learn more about Singpass. Very heartened to know that we have so many interested seniors who wants to know more. Yeah, thanks so much.